A very good morning and good evening, everyone. Welcome back. So last session, we were discussing about some commands. Now we'll continue the discussing about the a few more commands, but let's have a quick review of what are the commands that we talked about yesterday. So there is a VI, a VIM editor that we talked about. It's an interactive editor. We have seen how can we, create a file or modify a file. After that, we have seen SCD and a few options we have taken a look, right? And after that, we went with a curl command, so which is going to help you in browse and download. And after that, tar command to extract, and like unzip command to unzip the things is what we have seen. And after that, we talked about a pipe concept. So pipe concept is you have a command one and you have a command two. And if you would need to, if you would need to um, send the command one output as an input to the second command, so then you go with a pipe symbol. Right. So, and after that, we talked about started with the PS command. So the PS command is to show you the list of all the process. The -ef is what we generally use. And after that, we talked about kill command. Inside that kill command, we used -9 option to end a process. By the way, so it's like same like in Windows, you right click and just give the end process. Okay, so here also it is the same thing it will do. All right, until here we have discussed in our previous session. So today we're going to talk about some more commands. Okay, so to start with, we're going to talk about the first one, which is a privilege escalation thing. Okay, let's start connecting to the server. I just created one. Okay, yeah. So let's talk about the next one, which is the privilege escalation. And in order to understand that, so what I would like to do is I will go for one more session I'll use for the same system. Okay, let it be. So just to show you, the other day, yesterday, I'm talking about, let's say sleep like this, and the PS-EF pipe grep for sleep. I'll get one process ID. I'm going to kill the process. Okay, kill the process. It is actually killing. And if you look at this process, by the way, it is belong to a EC2 user, and I am the EC2 user. I'm able to manage my own process, so there is no problem. But Linux is a multi-user, multi-session operating system, right? At least the multi-user. So that means it has other users as well. So let's say I go for PS-EF. Okay, there are many processes like, okay, I would like to kill a process. Let's say there is a cronny process. I would like to kill that particular process. So now what I'm thinking, I'll just go and try to do this. Okay, then what it is telling? It is telling, okay, it can't be killed by the way. So your operation is not permitted. So the cronny process is still running. So whatever it is, cronny is like something like your time, so time adjustment service in your Linux box. Okay, it is something. Okay, it's okay. Some process it is running. It is started by some other user, which it is you can't actually kill this particular process. So that is the criteria. Now that's where our next thing comes into picture is now you always log into the system as a normal user only. Okay, so but however, you need to perform certain admin activities. Some operations require administrative privileges. Okay, Now the root user is the administrator account of the user. So then what you can do, you can just open directly the session with the root user, but it's not a good practice. No one does that actually. Okay, even in the configurations, there'll be a disablement of the configuration that in the system that don't allow root direct logins. Okay, if everyone is using the same username password. Okay, now let's say in a company, if everyone is using the same ID card, can you determine who is actually coming at what time? No, because everyone is using the same ID card, right? So the identification is a problem, right? So that's where, okay, a root user is an administrator account. So, and you can't actually use the same username and password to authenticate, by the way. You essentially need to log into the system with your username and password. And that means there's an identification that you logged into the server. Everything get logged in the server. Everything you're doing is going to get a log in the server. Okay, and those logs even being collected generally in the enterprise organizations. Okay, so there is something called as SecOps, something will come. Okay, so which is a SecOps, I think. SecOps security. So these guys, um, no, not SecOps also. SIEM, let's put like this. So SIM is a security information and event management systems. Okay, so now what all you are doing in the system, so the SEM tools will collect the information, okay, continuously, and it will highlight a risk as well. Okay, so it will identify the immediately the alerts will come also. Okay, within few minutes only, if you are doing something, let's say you logged in as a root user, so then that is monitored as an incident in SIEM tools, then immediately, okay, then alert will come. Why are you doing this? Okay, you need to provide a justification and things like that. Blah blah blah. You need to do in the organization. Okay, right? So this is not going to work that way. So the directly login as a root user, we will not do it. Okay, that means essentially you need to log into the system with your username only. Okay, and you need to log in as a your own user, and then what you need to do is you need to take care of the things as a privileged, by the way. You need to take care of the things with the privileges, and that privilege, uh, how do you get is in the operating system. So the default one is sudo. Okay, to perform these administrative activities, so what you have is the default one is sudo, by the way. Now there's an alternatives to the sudo also. So the sudo itself will provide the documentation. Sudo alternatives in the sudo documentation. So here itself you have the sudo alternatives, by the way, and these are all the different tools that you have as an alternative to the sudo. Okay, especially the commercial tools. So these tools. So whereas CyberArk is famous in that, Power Broker is very famous in this area. Okay, so there are commercial tools which will help you in gaining the administrative access to the system. And again, the same story. Yesterday I was telling you should not log into the system. And when you log in, even we want to control that, so we wanted to give you only certain time access, by the way. Okay, rest of the time you even can't log into the system. Okay. So you need to request for an access and you dynamically get the access and dynamical access control and all. These are done by the tools like these commercial tools, whereas the default available in the operating system is a very a default one, by the way, which is a basic one. Okay. And there are commercial tools, big companies will do it, but doesn't matter, by the way. Okay, now if you are running with sudo kill command, so there you are going to run. Okay, let's say you are using Power Broker. I think you have something like pb run or something like that. Okay, I also don't remember. Power Broker pb run command. Okay, so this is pb run and the command, by the way. Yes, correct. Right. So that's where pb run, you run this command as a root user. What is the command I wanted to run? This is the command I wanted to run. Okay, that's what you're going to tell. Now, then this pb run or now here in the sudo is going to start reading some information in the system that this so-and-so user is actually supposed to execute this operation. And if he is expected to execute the operation, it will just simply allow it. Otherwise, you're going to get an error, something like this. This executes the command as an administrator. But if you lack the privilege, then simply you'll get sudo user is not allowed to execute this program, the system, by the way. All right. So this is how I'm going to do it. So now, generally in the organizations, your sudo access or the power broker access and all is again controlled in central only. It will not again to the local. Still you can do the local also. Okay, many of the organizations I have done, okay, at a vast also, at a scale also, the sudoers we can make it work. But we just need to spend time and effort in order to manage it. By the way, your management becomes challenging, and as long as you are able to manage it, so then I think the tools like third-party paid tools like and all is not needed. Okay, so that's where we would need to you know we would need to assume that we already have access. Okay, so centrally my user is created, there only my privilege will be decided what I have to do and what I cannot do. Okay, so here I'm going to just go and assume I am in an organization, I logged in with my username, which is EC2 user. So just imagine EC2 user is like your username, like my username is, let's say, Raghu. So Raghu at the system, by the way, logged in. Now here, assuming I belong to a DevOps team, so I have a privilege to perform this admin activity. So sudo kill 972. So now you did not got operation permitted and all. If you see on the top also, the crony process is gone. This process, whatever it's there, it's 972, it's gone. It's not showing anywhere. So that what I have done, I have used a privilege and executed the command. Since I am having the privilege, I'm actually able to run the things. Okay. So, however, here I'm not interested in how to configure this sudo and all. Okay, because assuming I already get it as a part of an organization when I get the access to the system itself. Okay, and if you are still not get it also, you essentially need to raise some ticket. You essentially get it kind of a thing. It will happen in the other enterprise organizations. But whereas you come to the very small organization, so this process and all will not be there. Okay, so if you are if you know the root password or the login, like let's say the other team member is already having the access, so they will provide you the access. That is how it's gonna work. Okay, so yeah, and if you are interested that so how to configure the sudo, so I think I just provided the sudo explanation document. You can just you can view it whenever you get some time. All right, so that is about sudo. So that means any administrative operation I wanted to perform, you just make sure you have sudo prefix to the command and it will start working, by the way. So now further any commands, whatever we are going to talk about, so it is going to be the administrative commands and we require sudo. All right, any questions?
Hi. So unlike a PP run in sudo, you're not going to give any user automatically. It's going to take a root. The admin user as a user if I use a sudo command. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
PB also does the same thing, ideally because you're trying to gain the privileges, but also sudo also have an option that you can specify the username when you're doing it. It also has an option. -I log in as a target user to execute.
So this way, suppose if so for example, a file is having some other access, like some other user owns it. So if I can do sudo for that user and do perform operation on that.
Correct.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, good morning.
Yeah.
So this sudo command depends on the user level, right? The access or privilege that is set up. For example, if you are an admin, you might be able to do a lot of things, but if you are an end user, you still have this pseudo access, but you can do only limited ones, right? So why can't they give it to the user to begin with? Why do you have to go via a sudo? If you're admin, I understand you don't have to log in as a root. You don't want to do as a root. You are doing a sudo admin. That means another like a proxy admin with your specific user information. Then you give all these privileges to that sudo, and you can execute these admin activities. But a normal end user, when you set up who needs to log into the system, they also have the sudo command and they can do certain things. Can you just a little bit elaborate on it, why this sudo is set up that way?
What is the difference between an end user and your user you're talking about? Both are users only to the operating
So
system.
for example, I'm not a Unix system administrator. I'm just a user. I log in,
Okay.
I do certain information, certain things like a server access I have, but I'm not an admin, right? So, but I can still do sudo and go and do certain things, right? Yeah, so that's what I was I never understood the sudo completely. Yeah.
So now let's say I'm a test user, assuming he's a
Mhm.
normal user in your context, whereas EC2
Yes.
user, he was able to execute it. So now, even though he is a normal user, you log in, now he try to, let's say he add one user. Now it is telling, so do something by the way. So I think you need a password. So, but for this guy, you did not got this particular message, right? So for an example,
Mhm.
even I will set it up. Password something. So now I am actually trying to, as a test user, I logged in as a test user. Even I can log out and completely log
Mhm.
in as a test user, let's say to the
Okay.
system. And now I'm actually trying to do some operation, by the way, with the sudo. So sudo, and I'm getting, let's say, I am trying to add a user, some admin command, whatever it is. Again, let's say
Okay.
demo. Then what it is asking, we trust you, some message it is asking. Okay, then I give
Mhm.
my password, enter. Then what it is telling is you don't have privilege for that.
Mhm.
So that's the thing, right?
So, yeah, so, but certain times these root level, the end users or the normal users, not the admins, they can execute certain commands with sudo. And I
They
used
can't.
to wonder,
They can't.
they can't? Okay, only admin privileged ones can
No.
execute. Mm,
You distinguished clearly that he is an end user, you're an administrator. But for the system,
mhm.
both are users only. There's no distinguishing. Both are
Okay.
just user. Okay, you categorized outside, and as a human being, you are categorizing, okay, this guy is admin, this guy is normal user. For system, both are same guys only. System will act on the privilege. This guy have privilege configured in the system, I will allow him to execute. That guy doesn't have privilege, that means that doesn't guy, I don't allow the execution by that much only. In your case, what you're telling is in certain cases you have observed end user executing still some pseudo commands, that means he have a privilege. That's how
Yeah,
he's
yeah, that's why I was wondering why don't you give the user? Why do you have to go through a sudo? Does it log it separately, like it's an admin activity or something
No,
like that? I don't know.
you're asking the
I
command to the wrong person, right? So because you would have asked the question to those people, by the way, who has
ah
provided the access. I am clearly
okay,
giving the distinguishing that,
okay,
okay, if you are, since you're a DevOps guy, you get the access. And even
okay.
let's forget about that also. Why you do need to categorize? If access is given, a person can perform. If the access is not given, it cannot be performed. It's as simple as. It doesn't need to matter that only admin. Now I will also go and if you get into that exercise of questioning, it will never end, by the way. So now I will also go and question, by the way, like let's say I'm a normal user, I can even go and challenge, as an example, right? I can go and challenge, saying that why don't you give me the access, because you are giving some access to some administrator. What is the extra brain he have? The same brain I have also he has, right? I can also manage my
No,
system.
I understand the
So you don't
hierarchy.
need to get into that. You don't need to get into that. Let's get onto the system side, technical
Okay.
things. Access need to be provided. It can be provided, or if it is provided, it will work. If it is not provided, it will not work. As simple as.
Okay. So probably I'm not asking the right person. I should be asking this question to a Unix system administrator rather than a DevOps
No, no,
administrator.
no, no.
I don't know because Unix,
No. You're again.
when you are
You're
an admin, you create
listen.
users on your system and you limit certain privileges for these users, but still they can go and do the sudo. That's why I never understood, but I can
I'm
read about
against
it.
your
Don't worry about
philosophy. That's what I'm telling. I'm against your philosophy. Why? Because why are you categorizing the person is a normal user, doesn't have a brain? Why I am an administrator or why I should have an
I'm not,
access?
I'm saying the privileges are different. For admin user, you have so many privileges. You can access so many systems. You can
Why
delete, you
not?
can add. For
Yeah.
admin users, you provide all the privilege, right? But if you are giving access to an end user for a developer, okay, who wants to go to access the server and see the logs, you don't give all the admin privileges.
No, that's what I'm telling. I'm against your philosophy. Okay.
Okay.
See, who is an administrator, by the way? Who administrator is a person, okay, which is being salary is being provided by he belongs to IT, is belongs to operations. Now, who is paying the salary? He is not making any business. The end user developer who is making the code, he is putting his blood and making some product and selling the product outside and getting the money for you. He can't do every operation. He has given you some money to manage my server. Correct? This is how IT works. Correct? Product makes money, business makes money, developers is a part of the product development. They bring the money and and they and go like they can't actually manage many things. Okay, then they go ahead and pull some people and so hey, you please manage that. That's how the operations engineer come into picture. Now you just look at the company, which is a big company, many products are there, many businesses are there, those guys, and essentially one central IT has been formed. Okay. Now I am the owner of the server. I am paying the money to that server. Let's say I'm a user, by the way. Let's say I'm a user from the developer perspective. Now I'm a user and I am the owner of the server because I am paying to that server. Why I should not have access? How an administrator can have it? It's an open challenge only. It's a fair challenge that I do day in day out in the organizations. Okay. And it needs to be changed. So that means essentially, okay, if you look at the approach, by the way, who needs to perform this activity, and that's where I'm not sure in the very first class I have given the example. The operations, how it becomes DevOps is basically is, so we are reducing the operations people, these people. Now, essentially the engineers coming from the development side of the work, who is actually performing it actually. Okay. So to keep it simple, by the way, who executes, you don't get into the bureaucracy of the things, by the way. I understand big organizations operate that way, but also at the same time, when you actually look at the mature model, giving the access to the developer is the right thing. And in the right thing, I think yesterday or day before this yesterday, I talked about no one giving access to this is the right thing, by the way. Rather than determining this guy need access, that guy need access, no one needs access is the right security aspect that you need to consider. Okay, so I don't trust developer, I don't trust uh, administrator as well. I don't trust both the guys. These guys is not my relative, that guy is not, it's not like that, right? I don't trust anyone. Okay, it's a zero trust is the right thing if you really talk about it. So that's where I'm coming from. So that bureaucracy of the things is maybe, I know what you talked about. There are, I completely hear what you said also, I agree, but also at the same time look at the right thing rather than uh, taking the sides of this guy, that guy. So just look at the right thing, take the maximum shift left approach. Don't allow login to the system is the better security that you can achieve, rather than going and allowing the security and deciding whom to give, not to give, rather than getting onto this debate, by the way. So let the things operate over the automation.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, all right.
Raghu, if we
Yeah.
have the root access, Can we add and manage the privileges for some other users?
Yes, you can.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it is essentially one configuration file in the system, so that you need to add. So it will just go and keep the things. For an example, anyhow, it be sudo cat. So there is some file here. Sudo buffers.d. I can't see the content also, if I'm not wrong. Okay, as a normal user, I don't see the content, so I'm using the sudo privilege. Sorry, sudo privilege. So here I'm telling some syntax, whether this user should be able to execute all the operations, whereas you can limit the operations also. And while he's performing the operations, don't ask him to don't ask for the password again for this user, is what it is. But here, if you see this, he is a test user is trying to perform, it is asking for the password of the test user again. By the way, even we can avoid that also, is given here. Okay, we have taken all the privilege for this particular user. So in the organizations, rather than the user, generally we go with the groups, by the way. So if you belong to a particular group, you gain the access, and if you don't, you don't get the access. So generally, we don't prefer to go with individual user access. We'll always prefer to go with the group access. Okay, fine. Because it is easy to manage, and also like it's as simple as that, easy to manage. Okay. So the next thing is easy to manage means another point as well. Now, let's say I have 100 machines, 1,000 machines, 10,000 machines. Now, let's say if I'm dealing individually, I have to configure your access across 100 systems, 1,000 systems. But whereas if it is a group, by the way, so I'll provide access to all the systems. And okay, if I need to add to a group, I'll add you in one centralized place, the group management system, your Active Directory or something. I'll add to a group. You gain the access on all the systems. If I don't need to give the access, I'll remove you once. By the way, it automatically replicates in all the 1,000 systems. So that's where it is better to have a groups generally for better organizing. Okay. So the next concept we're going to talk about is the user management. When we talk about the user management, so we'll not talk about a user, which is a human user management on the operating systems, because we already had a context that, bigger organizations will have the human users coming from single sign-on, right? So, but we are going to talk about the user management in the context of creating the users for applications to run, by the way. So there are applications that are going to run. So for an example here, when I give ps-ef, you can see that there is a root user. So previously you can see there's a debug something. Okay, polkit d is there. Previously crony d was there, and so some users were there, right? So those are actually running some services on the system. Okay, those are the users. Uh, those are the users who are going to run the applications. What is the server is meant for? Server is meant for to run the application, some application, right? We are meant to run some application. Okay, so now in order to run that particular application, so application should never run application should never run as a root user. So what you can do, you can pick up administrator username and you can start a service, by the way. But however, okay, if you run the services as a root user, it will start it will start posing a security threat to the system. Okay, instead, what we will do is each application should run it on its own dedicated functional user. Okay, so generally functional users, we don't keep it in the single sign-on things. So we will single sign-on things, and single sign-on things. So it will be going to a local user, by the way. So this is a very common practice in the operating system and as well as in the organizations as well. So human users are generally part of centralized places like Active Directory. Okay, but whereas functional users are always local to the system. Because okay, so that is how you are going to deal generally, general practice. There are organizations even they take functional users also to Active Directory as well. It's very, I mean, at least I have seen it, but quite rare in that way. I mean, it's still fine. Doesn't matter where the user is. But anyhow, here we don't have the Active Directory. Still, we need to run the operations of an application or run the application, by the way. So we still need a user, and we need to know how to add a user into the system. We're not going to add a user that can log into the system. No, this user won't log into the system. You always log in with your username password only. Okay, because if you are using a common user, functional user for logging into the system, like who can track previously what I talked, if everyone is using the same ID card, you can't determine end of the day who came at what time, right? So everyone have their own individual ID card. Okay, so they swipe it. So that's how you can make the attendance saying that this so-and-so person came at so-and-so time. Right. So the same thing server also, if you're logging with your user, it can start tracking, okay, this user logged into the system. Then the full track of your login will be tracked on the system, right? Otherwise, if you log in as every one of 10 members of your team is still logging as the same username password, it is not a security best practice. Okay. So that's where this user, whatever we are adding, is only to run an application only. We don't log in with this particular user at all in the organizations generally. Okay, so only in the operating system, running an application with a root user is a security risk, which we wanted to control, and a very general practice from the OS standard perspective as well. Run your application as a non-root user or non-admin user kind of a thing, a user who doesn't have admin privileges. And these users are going to be functional to run the application, by the way. And these users are also called as functional users. And in the OS terminology, we can call it as daemon users, whatever it is. It is a user. So now how do you add a user is quite simple. Sudo user add sample. Okay. So user add sample will not have the privileges. Okay, I'll not have the privilege. So whereas what I'm going to do is I'll take the privilege of sudo. Sudo means I have the privilege, I can execute it. Okay, now we can verify whether the user is created or not. So ID space sample. Okay, then what it has done is your user add command. The user add command is actually automatically creating one group sample and adding your user sample into that group. Okay, by design in the operating system, every user should have a group. So since I didn't created any group, the user add itself actually created one group and added this user into that particular group. Okay, that's now okay. So this is how you do that. Now your user addition is done. Now this user addition can be used in some of your functional requirements. But anyhow, if you talk about traditional user management, there's a lot of concepts will come, like user management, group management, okay, user modifications, like password management, password configurations. So many things will come. So I don't want to get onto that exercise. I am creating a user to run my application. I am coming from an application running context. I don't want to manage this machine, right? So that's where in that particular context, we are just limiting, okay, to ourselves to create a user. And once this user is created, I will go and give this user to my application to run as this user, by the way. How do we do that? We'll see it anyhow. But even before to that, so to justify the statements which I'm mentioning, so we'll just try to bring in some, so packages, or sorry, so services installed and running on this particular system. Let it run. So after running this, so you will see that it is actually going to run certain services and some standard services, by the way. So these standard services are running with a normal user, even though you start the things as a root user or things like that, doesn't matter. It is going to be running as a normal user. So we'll see that. I will be, okay, now you can see this. So ps-ef pipe grep for HTTP. So this HTTP is a software which I installed, and now you can see this, it is running as a Apache user. There's one process which is initiated by root, okay, because it needs to start. But after that, everything is running as a normal user. Now ps-ef for Tomcat, I think. Yeah, this is another software I installed. So Tomcat is a well-known software. This HTTPD Apache is a well-known software. These guys, okay, are following the standards. What is the following standard? Running as a root user. This guy also running the things as a user. And ps-ef grep for okay, MySQL database, which is Maria. Now you can see this MariaDB. It is running as a MySQL user. No one told that to run it as this one because that software is packaged and told to run as that. You didn't told. They are coming as a standard. They are doing that exercise by the way. So now you also need to follow the same standard. What is the standard? You run your services as a non-root user with some functional user, and you just learned how to add a user, right? Yeah. Any questions? Also, I think something, so here some more information, your user informations, all the list of users in the local users in the system, usually see in a file called as etc password. I think yesterday we were exploring this file, right? So for gripping and all. So here you see this last 3 users just got added. Okay. Yeah. Any questions, please?
Hey, I was about to ask a question regarding this Tomcat or Apache user. So if you do ID of this, I try to do that from my session, like open session, uh, but I couldn't find it. So if you do ID of Apache, will I get the information about what group, what ID, and what are the groups they are in?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Raghu, even adding a user and installing some application both reflects as the user here.
Come again. What is it? Sorry.
Here the Apache, SQL, and Tomcat
Mm,
you have referred them as the users. So
right.
add a user to the system and installing some software both reflects as users here.
Installing the software, I did not got it. First one is fine.
Like the list which you have seen now, uh, if we add some user, it will be reflected here. But this
Correct.
Tomcat, SQL, and Apache, they are not users, right? They are the applications.
No, they are users.
Oh, but generally we do install them, right? We don't create a user for them.
Installation is taking care of user addition also.
Okay. So
When you do
while installing itself, it will create some user kind of thing in this.
yeah, installation is a run book written. Okay, by the
Okay.
way, in that run book, they will tell I want to add a user when I install this package.
Okay. And we control the permissions to the users. So in the same way, can we control permissions for this also? The Apache, SQL, Tomcat, and all.
There won't be anything special controlling is needed. When you say permissions, what permissions?
Like for users, we can give the anything like read, write, or something. We
That
can
is file permission. That is not user permission. That is a file permission. Users permission is only sudoers in the operating system or any other third party you're using. But user permission is this, not that. That is a file level properties. You are
okay.
giving to the file, by the way, who to
Okay.
open, who not to open. That doesn't belong to the user.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. So the next one is a very important one as a part of um, your role, by the way, the package management. Package management is a very common activity as part of your day-to-day job also on the system. Generally, let's say if you're running the things on the system, you essentially need to run some software, um, by the way, or some service on that system. That service may be a Java service, maybe a Node.js service, or blah blah blah, whatever it is service it is. It essentially need to be configured, and that's where some of the softwares that you need to install. By the way, for an example, I want to run a Java application. I need to have Java in my system so that I can run Java, right? So something like that. Okay, like what I'm mentioning is the package management kind of comes into a very important role. Okay, when you're actually setting up your applications, by the way. Okay, and in that particular one, the Linux distribution like Red Hat, okay, so have certain package manager software also as a part of the OS, by the way. So you have a package managers. So Red Hat started with RPM. Okay, so Red Hat started with RPM. Um, it is there from 2 to Red Hat 2 version. One version I never used. I'm using Red Hat from uh, Red Hat 2 version. So it is, you have is till 4.8 RPM actually came into picture. So it is introduced in RHEL2. You can write like this. But whereas RPM has certain disadvantages, by the way. They have understood that. They introduced another tool which is from 4.8. They introduced YUM. So another command. Now these also they have over a period of time they found some problems and things like that. They introduced something else which is called as DNF, by the way. So today if you're talking about package management, you can directly start here, but there is some history to that as well. Okay, but you don't use these two anymore. Still they'll be there in the operating system, but however you don't use them. It directly starts with DNF. For an example, if I need to talk about what is the problems, by the way, right? So let's talk about one by one. So the RPM is a Red Hat package manager, okay, and which the softwares that you are going to install, irrespective of RPM or YUM or DNF, doesn't matter. Okay, so the package is actually going to be .rpms. Okay, it is same like your .msi in your Windows. .msi is for Windows, right? The same way .rpm is for Red Hat. And the same way other distributions are there. .dgb is a Debian packages. Okay, so like that you are going to have different packages. Red Hat actually follows .rpms. Now the RPM is actually going to work with the local files only. That means you can't download from some centralized places and things like that. Okay, so it can still download one package, but it can't download multiple packages and things like that. So it's a very common problem. So I had given some commands, but it's okay. You don't go through that also is fine. Or whenever you want to have some time, you can just try to execute this and understand it, something like that. Okay. But however, I just wanted to download one package here. Okay. I can even download from download Nginx, let's say RPM, something like that. Now, for an example, this is a package. I think I see this. This is as EL7. This is a Red Hat 7. I'll go for Red Hat 9. Okay, so in the Red Hat 9, this is the package name it is giving me. I'll copy the link address so we know how to download. So curl -o, this one. Okay, now what I'm going to do is sudo rpm. I have the command. I can install, okay, nginx, by the way. So then what it is going to do is it is going to throw it installed, unfortunately. Okay, so then RPM, I'll remove this package. I'll download something else. So which actually can fail if there is no dependency. What I have done is RPM-I to install, RPM-E to remove, erase. Okay, so I'll just go and try to bring some other package which may throw an error. I don't know this also. what it is telling, this is telling something else, or it installed. Let me get some other package. In the first place, I picked the wrong one. So let's go to some other package. So rather than Nginx, I will search for GCC, something like that. There is a package name. So sudo rpm -i GCC. So now what it is problem, by the way, so the problem, it can't actually install. Why? Because it actually have a dependent packages, and it can't install these dependent packages. Now, what is the next thing? You download these packages. That package again have some other dependencies. You download them. It becomes a big challenge to manage. It becomes a big challenge to manage. So this is the challenge that they have addressed in a next command, which is yum command. Now this package, okay, you first downloaded and trying to install. First download operation you have done, and second operation you're trying to install. That installation is failing with the dependencies. Okay. Now the next command which came in is actually solved both the problems. Sudo dnf install. Okay. So sorry, yum install gcc. Okay. So if I give like this, now the next command yum. So what it will do is it will download and it will install. Both the things it will do. It will download from some place. That's okay. It is downloading from some place. It's fine. But after after downloading, it can install its dependencies also. Okay. They ask for installing GCC. Okay. So it is going to have other dependencies as well. But in fact, actually, this is dependencies resolved only, right? So GCC is already there in the system. I'll not go for this particular one. Okay. So then rather than that, I can go for, let's say, nginx only. If I go for nginx, usually will have some dependencies also. You're installing nginx and has some dependency systems. You're dealing with those particular dependency packages also. So why enter? So now what I have done is I installed nginx. Now, slowly, this YUM actually becoming a challenge because of two reasons. Okay, or I can keep it as three reasons. Now, if I want to remove Nginx, I will remove Nginx. Okay, it is removing the dependencies also, but this is addressed in 9 machine. In RHEL 8, I think, or until 7 maybe. This yum command also have a challenge of remove. It can install the dependencies, but when you remove, by the way, it will not remove the dependencies. It will just leave it, and it will remove only that package. So that is one problem. I think it is already addressed in the yum latest versions itself. But however, there is other challenges as well. This yum is written on. In fact, actually, I think this yum itself is not yum. It's actually a DNF only. But behind the scene, they just mask it like this. So only not to break people. Okay, this is not even, unless until I go to the back systems, you will not be able to determine. Let's say, yeah, that's okay. I think it's okay. That's fine. Anyhow, the new command came. There's also another problem is the yum is actually the major concern, especially is the yum is actually is written on Python 2. Okay, the Python 2 ended on so 2028 max. Even that before to that itself, Python 2 was announced its end of life, by the way. So then Red Hat understood it, and they tried to start building or adopting other third-party software. YUM is also not started by Red Hat. Red Hat adopts the open source. Its YUM was a third-party software already by the time, so they just adopted it into their operating system. So the same way, in the same way, it is going to be for DNF as well. So here Python is a major thing, and also dependency handling is a problem, as I mentioned. So it has performance issues. Okay, so version control is also not there in okay, which was there in DNF now. Okay, so we'll talk about it anyhow. This is another important feature that DNF came up with. This is what I'm talking about. No automated cleanup. It will just leave the packages, because now why it is actually removing it is actually not YUM. It is actually DNF only. They just named it as YUM so that you'll not break, because the new DNF command is as is same only. Okay, so that the end user will not impact anything, at least the end user in the sense like system users, whoever is using it, they should not impact anything. So that's their idea. That's how they will do. And yeah, so here Python 2 is another one. Okay, whereas DNF comes into picture. So the DNF is a major one, which will now we are using at least from some time. So it is introduced in 8 version. That means a decade back, they already introduced DNF. So we are actually using DNF. All right, so the same thing. So DNF, same like DNF install, same. Install, remove is the same thing. Now you can also list the installed packages by using DNF list installed. So this DNF is going to list down all the packages which are installed, by the way. Okay. Now there are available packages which are available to install. That means these packages are not installed, but these are available to install for in your system, by the way. So these are the packages, and these many packages are available to install. Okay. And the DNF list all is going to show both the installed package and as well as available packages for install. Okay, so DNF, and if I go and search for grep for Nginx, so it will show both the installed packages and available packages. Now, how do you determine whether the package is installed or whether the package is available? The third column will help you. If the third column shows at the rate, that means this package is installed package. If the third column is not showing at the rate, that means this package is available to install. That is the criteria. The criteria is when you actually go for DNF list all, that will show both the installed packages plus available packages. And if you would like to distinguish like which is installed, which is available to install, so the third column at the rate symbol is the one which will help you in getting that information. Okay. And also if you would like to update any package, so you can go for DNF update. Okay. So also DNF has a command. DNF also has an option, which is DNF sudo DNF. I don't know. I don't remember the option, honestly, right? So what you do, help, I already talked about it, right? So we just need to show the dependencies, by the way. So here install is one option we used, remove is one option. The same way, so you also have show, check update. Okay, so sudo DNF check update. So it will tell you which are the packages which are available to update. These are all, can be updatable kind of a thing. It is telling. Okay. Yeah, that's okay. Mostly you'll end up with, installing the packages and generally upgrading the package if the update is available. Removing may be pretty rare because you always try to set up the things, right? So that's where remove generally will not come in, but as a part of your day-to-day activity, but still there is a remove as well. So overall to give, info is going to give the info about the package, that's fine. But list is the one thing that you wanted to determine whether the package is installed or not. List is the command which will help you, DNF list. And if you want to install a package, DNF install. And I'm using -y option because let's say if I'm going to give DNF install Nginx, so it always asks for yes or no in between. Now it is not there. Now remove Nginx. It prompts in between yes or no. You wanted to avoid, by the way, that yes or no. You can always give the -y directly from the command line. So you can give it. It won't ask for yes or no. For that reason, for both remove and install, we use -y option. You can also use -y option. This is what it is. And one last thing that we need to talk about here is how you install it. Now, where is this command is actually trying to download the packages? This DNF command, where is it is actually trying to download the packages from? Okay, so that is what we need to understand. Okay, that is what is called as repositories. All the list of repositories is found in this particular location. So if I go for CD to this location, do ls, so you can see the different repo files. The file ending with .repo, okay, will be referred by your command. Now there you are going to have certain entries like this. So telling this is the location that you need to download the package from, and it will download the packages from there. Okay. Now here we are using internet, by the way. So I am just using a Red Hat subsidiary maintained repositories. Let's say here I'm using direct Red Hat mirror only, but it is maintained by some other guy. It's directly that URL only, no? Okay, that's fine. It is maintained by AWS, somewhere hosted in the AWS, or since it is AWS machine, someone hosting some URL to download the packages. We are downloading that particular package, right? But in the enterprise organizations, the same repo files will be there, but you will not get it from internet. Usually in the companies, your servers, you're going to work with zero internet access. You don't require internet access to the servers. Okay, without internet, you're still able to manage the machines. Why do you need internet? I don't need internet, right? So then only thing that you will lose is how do I get my packages and all? You will not go to internet to download the packages. Okay, so whereas you have enterprise repositories, which is offered by the vendors, by the way, like Red Hat and all. Red Hat and all will have a so there'll be one Red Hat satellite server which has a connection only to the Red Hat, by the way, Red Hat official web page that will authenticate, and this will offer the list of packages, and you're going to download from that particular place. Okay. So this is how we are actually dealing with the package management. So we are going to install a package, and when you install, some dependencies is happening, and these packages are downloading from some place. Where it downloads is in the repo files wherever it is mentioned. If it is intranet, it will go and get you the package from your local server. If it is internet, it goes from the given URL from the internet, and it will download the package from there. But given the location, it will just go and try to download. That is what it does. Okay, sounds clear? Any questions? We have one more small topic, by the way, in the package management, but yeah, any questions before to that?
Hey, my question is regarding to the command. What kind of command we need to use? Suppose if I want to find the version of all the packages like repositories and everything, dependencies, what is the command I need to use?
DNF list will show everything.
Okay, list all or just a package?
Yeah. It shows versions. This is the version name. Middle column is a version.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Okay. And today's world, by the way, the development is moving so fast in such a way that, so there are different versions. Vendor itself is, see, previously they are actually going to have, so some versions slowly they'll be releasing it. Okay. But today, okay, the vendors are even offering the packages in multiple versions at the same time. You take Red Hat only. Red Hat, what is the end of license we seen? Red Hat EOL. So the Red Hat EOL, if you look in, so RHEL 8 actually is going to still support for 2029. RHEL 9 is 2032. That means the product development is still going on, and they support it, right? So that means the versions, they're not actually supporting one version only. They're supporting multiple versions, right? Now, when they're doing this multiple, when they're doing the multiple versions, okay, as a Red Hat, they're doing the multiple versions. Like same way, some other products also doing the same way. By the way, for an example, a database you take MongoDB, um, you know, MongoDB download. By the way, for an example, just as a database, I wanted to download this. Now here I go to here. So what they're telling, hey, I give all these versions. I support 8 version. There is a 7 version of mine. There's a 6 version of mine. Which one you want? Isn't it? So they're offering multiple things. I want to go to some other database, like let's say MySQL download. Okay. So if I want to go and download the MySQL, I'm not sure still 5 is being provided, but yeah, 5 is there, 8 is there. So they have 2 versions offering. So they're still supporting 2 versions. Okay. Now it comes as a requirement that a software may end up having multiple versions. Okay. And you need to choose which version to install. Okay, but I need to have both the versions to be there in order to install. But which version to install is something is being addressed in the DNF command. So that is being introduced as a new feature called as module, by the way. You simply give DNF module list. You're going to see that a software with multiple versions, by the way. So you can see this. There are different versions. So you take Nginx itself, 1.12, 1.22 is there, 1.24, 1.26 is also there. And default also some other version would have been there. So now sudo DNF install, let's say Nginx, if I give, what is the version it is going to try to install? It is installing 1.20. But the module is telling I have 3 more versions which is available. Now let's say I want to install 1.26. Okay, then what I have to do? Sudo DNF module. Okay, so enable. Okay, and the name and the version. What is the name? Let's say Nginx colon 1.26 is the version. So enter. So now this version is tagged behind the scene. Now when you try to install Nginx, so which version it is going to try to install? 1.26. Okay. So certain vendors started also giving the support as well. Okay. And some vendors are still not there. Now let's say if I give sudo DNF list pipe graph for Python, okay, they approach in a different approach. Java, Python is approaching in a different approach. Here, the package name itself is being changing by them. The package name is not Python. So previous case, our package name is Nginx and the version is different. But here, some people actually started addressing in a different approach. By the time the vendors like Red Hat and all came up with a solution, these guys had a problem way before to that, and they started giving the package names as a different package, as per version. Now Python 3.13 is there, Python 3.12, Python 3.11, 3.9. You will see those version coming in, by the way. Okay, some people are addressing the versioning in that approach also. The package name itself, they're changing. Okay, Java also follows the same thing. All right. So this is where you can say this: Java 11, Java 17, Java 21. So you have package name itself is changing completely. Now it's up and you need to understand which one, how to deal with that, and you'll be proceeding accordingly. So the DNF module is a one that came in, and you'll be able to choose whichever the one you want, as long as it supports. Right? Clear? Any questions? Okay. Hope I'm not going too fast. So for today, we'll just pick up a last one only. File permissions also we'll see in next session. That's all. file permissions, and there is also a networking concept is there, so which is a very important one for our job actually. Okay, so network is a more complex one. So, when the world of monolith started breaking to microservices, the complexity arised is networking. Earlier it was a happy path. Yeah. So let's talk about the last one just for today, which is service management. So the service management, you deal with the system D, by the way. Okay, so the services is basically I want to run a program, but I want it to run 24/7. Okay, in the operating system. So that's where it becomes a service that you need to run. So the commands, whatever you are executing so far, ls command and things like that, those are the commands, just does the job and comes out. But there are certain commands, like let's say Nginx as a command. If you install Nginx package, it runs 24/7. But you can't run it. You can run still here Nginx, so by running the command here. But this process will get ended when you actually close this terminal. Okay. And also there is another challenge that, whenever I reboot the system and all, I have to go and manually start the program again. So to avoid all these particular things, the OS itself have a service management, by the way. So which is the core of the operating system anyhow, the service management. So system uses this a lot. We can simply rely on the native system service, which is systemd, by the way. Those are services that we run in the background. So we already seen like, like web servers, like, we have seen HTTPD previously, right? Databases we talked about, like we have seen MySQL running, okay, and some other softwares, okay. So these are all run always in the system. My service also always need to run on the system so that the customers can access it. Okay. Now the modern systems are using systemd. So the systemd is also again came from RHEL 7. But before to that, there used to be another system called as initd. But doesn't matter. So now it is systemd. So we'll be talking about system. Now, if you would like to, get all the list of services, so probably I can start here. So sudo systemctl list -units. Sudo systemctl list -units. Okay, you will get many things, by the way. So systemd deals with other things also, but whereas I press Q to come out, but I wanted to, type is equal to, I'm looking for services only, service. So these are all the different services which are configured in your system, whether they are running, not running, will tell you here. So it is telling that, whether those are running, audit D service is running, whereas cloud config service is not running. Okay, cron D service is running. Okay, like this, different services are running, and some services are not running. So if you want to see which are running, which are not running, what are the services, you can go ahead and run this command to list it out. Whereas if you know the service name, so you can simply go for looking at systemctl. Systemctl, you can give the status of the service. It is telling Nginx is not there. So maybe I'll go for HTTPD. Okay. So now you can see that the service is actually active and running. All right. Now, if you would like to start a service, so then start service name. So then if you would like to give start, it's already started anyhow, there is nothing will happen. Now the same thing, if I wanted to stop, by the way, so I can go for stop. I can stop the service and you can look at the status of the service. Now it shows that it is inactive and dead. It's not running. It is not. Now you can also restart your service. Let's say you want to stop and start at the same time. So you can have a restart command so that it will just restart the service. And one last option that you can see here is the vendor preset option, which is disabled. What is this vendor preset option is, and what is that disabled means here is when you actually shut down the machine. Okay, so now let's say I'm going to start this service. So this service is in running mode now. If you look at the status, it's running. Okay, now I'm going to do a reboot of the system. So sudo reboot will restart the system. My VM will get virtual machine will get restarted. I'm rebooting a VM. If I do a reboot now, then again it comes up. When it comes up, you need to start the list of services. Now, what services to list on, or what services it need to start, what services it need not to start, is the option that is given there, disabled option. The disabled option is telling the last disabled is telling that vendor preset option, but the left side disabled is telling that this current service is disabled currently. That means this won't start when you actually start the server automatically. Okay, so now sudo systemctl status httpd, it is not started. So now to start it automatically, what do you do is you go for enable. When you do enable, so then you can go for the status. You can see this, it is marked as status. And when you install the package, by default, whether the service need to be enabled or not is a vendor preset. It is telling disabled. That means when you actually run the service or install the service, this is not going to start automatically. Okay, so that is what it is telling. There are certain services even comes vendor preset as enabled, so that by default you'll see the enable. You don't need to do that. But if you see that is disabled, you need to run it automatically. So then you essentially come here and enable it. Now, if I go for reboot once again, our status of HTTPD, it is even not started. Okay, doesn't matter. So I'll just go for a reboot once again. Now the machine, when it is actually going to come up, what it does is it is going to start this particular service. So since this is marked as enabled. Okay, cool. So you can see this started automatically. I didn't start it. The system just now came up. You can also check the command uptime can show you how much time it is up from. Just to 0 minutes, not even 1 minute it is up now. So the service is automatically started. So how it was started? By using a enable. Okay. That's all we have. And also now let's say if my project requires some custom configuration file, okay, custom service need to be added. Okay. So then what we do is we go into this location. Okay. So we go into this location, do ls, there'll be some service files. Okay. So ls hyphen capital R if I queue, it will tell me all the files I have. So you can see there's a lot of service files, right? So now if I need to, let's say there's a ktum service. So here, cat the file, it is empty file. Huh? So here you can see this, some information is readed. Okay. So you just need to create one file with the dot service with certain information, which is like this. Now here is where I'm going to specify which user it is supposed to run. Okay. I create one user and I'm going to do that. So shall we do one thing? Let's do this. Let's try to create some example. Sudo vim sample.service. Now the service name is sample. So the file name becomes the service name. Okay, 3 sections you require. So description, this is sample service, I'll give. And after network target is standard, you can keep that. Okay. Now what is the command that I wanted to run? Let's say /bin /sleep. This is a full path of the sleep command. So some time I'll give. Now which user I wanted to run, I don't give anything. Let's say I put hash so that I'm not giving any information. So now save and quit. Now once you do this, by the way, you just need to make sure you run these commands, sudo systemctl daemon reload, so that it can pick it up. Okay, sudo systemctl daemon -reload. Now it detects, okay, there is a new service sample.service came in. Okay, now you can go here and give status and then sample. It tells that it is actually inactive. Now, before to that, ps-ef pipe for sleep. So you can see that there is no sleep command running. I'll go and give sample and you look at the ps-ef grep, you can see that sleep is coming running, right? It is triggered by the service. data sample, so you can see that it is running, right? So the sleep is running. Okay. So this is how you had done. But if you observe the process, this is running as which user? Root user by default. Okay. So vim sudo systemctl top sample and the ps-ef pipe for sleep, it will go on. Okay, whatever the command we are running. Now vim sudo vim sample.service. Now let's say I wanted to run it as test user for an example. Save and quit. Now the same command sudo systemctl daemon -reload. Any changes you make it to the service file, you do a daemon reload and start sample ps-ef by prefer sleep. You will see that this is running as a test user. So this is what I'm talking about. So we'll just create a user. That test user is a functional user, doesn't require any login credentials or anything. Okay, he just need to be a user in the system. So the process will be started with that particular user. As long as it is non-root user, okay, the security risk is always less. Okay, so that's it. This is all we have it on the. So system D management side. Any questions? Anyhow, when we go into the project, I mean, most of the components requires to configure the service files. We'll get familiar to that. Fine. Any questions?
So actually, you tell that when we create a user add sample. Hello? User
Right.
add sample, then sample user can be created. Okay.
Right.
Then we can see the information of the user in this file, get etc password.
Mm-hmm.
So
Correct.
that user will have super admin permission but will have no permission.
No, he'll not have the permissions by default. So unless if let's say the super privileges is being added for a group, you add him to a particular group, he will gain the access. Or if you are actually dealing with individual user, you have to individually add him to the privileges. By adding a user, he'll not an administrator. It's a second step to configure to keep it.
Yes. And so what type of service we have to use in system D?
What type of
Like when we
service?
install in
Mhm.
this service management you tell na. So what suppose if we are installing Nginx, so we can only do DNF install Nginx.
No, that is a requirement from the project. What project tells that what you need it, you need to do that.
So suppose if we are installing any Tomcat and Linux, how can we install by using system service file or what?
I did not got your question. You are asking me that if I install Tomcat, how to configure the service file.
Yeah, yes, sir.
I mean, that's what you need to know, right? How to configure is here in the place of the service file which I created. So here instead of sleep command, you'll keep a Tomcat process.
Acha, acha, got it.
Tomcat command. Yeah.
And to in previous project, what I did, that suppose Tomcat is there. So when we can do system features dot Tomcat, and in
Correct.
something we will go to bin folder. There we run /shutdown.sh.
Yeah, that is not a standard practice. So if you give it, there is already a system in the system which can there is already a system in the operating system which can does the better startup of the service, starting up the service better, right? Now if you go and run the command line .sh file manually, now you reboot your machine, will it come up automatically? Question to you. Are you aware that it will come automatically or not?
No, so when we do in that Tomcat, OPT Tomcat, that bin folder, we do /shutdown.sh and then /startup.sh.
Understood.
That
But you rebooted the system. You started the SS file. You rebooted the server. Server is rebooted for whatever XYZ reasons, right?
yes,
Now the process will start automatically, or you have to go and start it again.
process will start, sir.
Sorry?
The process will come out, I think so. If we do ps-ef grep Tomcat, then it will show the process of Tomcat.
No, the question which I'm asking is different. You started the process. Let's say you logged into the system. Okay,
Okay.
I will show you what is there. Because Tomcat requires Java, I'm just installing Java. Okay, so here / startup.sh. Okay, I'm giving it. Now the
Yes.
Tomcat is started. So ps-ef grep for Tomcat. You see the Tomcat is running. Now I go for sudo reboot.
Java will start.
So whether is the server is up, jump now only, yes. Now ps-ef by grep for Tomcat. Where is your Tomcat process? It's gone, right? So do you
Yeah,
think
got
this is the right way? No. So you better hand it over to someone who does the job, so that you don't need to bother about whether the service will start or not. Otherwise, you always end up going into the server and start it out again, by the way. And in fact, for any reasons, okay, the process also went down. Okay, someone killed accidentally, or let's say out of memory, the system itself killed that particular process. If you tell systemd, hey, can you make sure my process to run automatically, then it will go and restart your process also automatically. You really need to go into the reactive mode of getting into the system and do the work again and again. It can do the better job. So that's where systemd is a very good practice to deal with.
so that is why we should install a Tomcat by system. In fact,
No. You install this also is fine, but when you want to start the Tomcat startup, you create a service file
Yeah,
and add this particular file to there so that it can start.
then we can do
Correct.
system features, start Tomcat. Right. Because this we mostly uses not Tomcat, that is why.
Yeah. Anyone? Any other questions?
Hey Raghu, this is Mahesh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Regarding the big project,
Hmm.
can you please explain about the project, what problem it solve, what is the complexity levels?
So it's complexity is as simple as that, So I always talk in the engineering world that, so building a one floor building is always simple, whereas you are building a 10-floor building, 20-floor building, 30-floor building. That itself is a complex. So that's
Yes.
where what I always tell is, rather than doing one component, 10 projects as a quantity, saying that, I have done 10 projects, we'll do only one project, but that project is a big one. So our project is going to have um, a 11 microservice project, so which has Java components, Node.js components, Python component, Golang component, okay, with the proper API and UI, and also with a requirement of SQL database and NoSQL databases, having messages queues and caching system involved in this particular project.
Okay. Okay. The complexity level is directly proportional to rate of experience, right? How much of experience you have. So how much of experience I will get if I do the complex problem? Means the big problem here.
Mm. See, the number may go wrong by adding bit more things also into come into picture, right?
Yeah, I mean as in
So with
general,
this particular
general.
no, general, I did not got it. So that doesn't mean that, so okay, so also that's again a subjective, right? A perspective, but the way
Mm,
the person to person will change. It doesn't mean that a person is working in a small project doesn't have more knowledge. The person is working on the big project always have more knowledge. By the way,
eh,
it's also wrong.
yes,
But
depends upon the
what
complex levels, right?
no, it's not about the complexity. Also, the person who is working on the big project also, he
Mm,
may not work on the full big project all the time, right? So he will work on some
mm,
area only.
okay.
Okay. But that is not the comparison we are doing here when we talk about project complexity here. So it is actually we're talking on the engineering side of the things, not on the development side of the things. We are actually setting up the project. More components comes into picture. Now the
Mm,
approach you need to solve the engineering problems that you have on that particular problem. Okay, the dimension of them will change by the way.
okay.
Okay, that's where the complexity arises is what I mentioned. Okay,
Yeah.
so simple answer is dealing with a hello world. You write a shell script. It's very simple. Okay, versus you deal with 10, 11 components. You're writing a shell script means you have to consider all the scenarios and made it. That makes the learning complex. That's where your outcome is going to be the better. Is the approach I'm been taking.
Okay. Depend upon with how much microservices are there.
Yeah, numbers
Number.
in
Yeah.
the engineering world.
Then
It's
yeah.
it's complex. Yeah. And that
Okay.
numbers also we can take it in a easy way only. Fine. But when you actually come with the principle and the practice, applying that principle and the practice, then it
Mm,
makes the complexity. Without principles, anything can be. I mean, if you don't have a principle, you can go wrong road 100
mm,
meters, you can go happily, right? But if you take a principle, you have to take a 3 kilometer full round, maybe, right?
okay.
Principle makes the things complex and lengthy, and all the things will come into picture, but that's okay. We are coming from that, from that world, so we will try to put the principles for the learning what we're doing, and eventually it will bring the best outcome by end of the day.
Okay.
Anyone, any other questions? So topic wise, I'm done for today. So feel free to drop if you don't have any questions, and if anyone have any questions, please. Tomorrow we'll not be having a session. After 2 days we'll meet again. Yeah, so that is also another context.
Okay, I'm sorry, you said tomorrow we don't have class. When is the next class then?
It depends upon the region which you are in. If you are in India, it is going to be Monday morning. If you are in US, it is Sunday evening.
Yeah, okay. Okay, sure. Thank you.
Sorry, you're saying something.
Yeah, so regarding all these services and starting up with the system D, I couldn't follow like much. I think I
So,
need
okay,
to.
go ahead and start doing the practice. Recall, see, first time. So that is a problem, right? So we over imagine the things by ourselves, right? The context you got it. What is system D, the service management? That much context you have it, right?
Yes, I have that.
So that context you don't have yesterday. Today you gain the context, correct? So that means there is some learning happen. Now you need more details means so just probably you just need to revisit again. So practice that makes you understand doing the things, by the way. As long as you have a context, you don't really get onto the details, by the way. Okay. A context is maybe, let's say in a movie, let's say for an example, let's say there is a 5-minute clip they made, like full action scene. In the back end behind the scene, they don't make it in 5 minutes only, right? It's a months of effort, right? So you just don't come and look at the presenter level mind things of comparison, by the way. Okay. You got the context, you go back, do your work, learn it, practice it, and eventually you'll be able to grab the things. But context is important. But as long as you don't have a context, you raise your voice, you raise your question. I'll help you with 100 different examples. I'm okay. Okay. I'm fine with sharing the context as much as possible. But technical things, low level things, by the way, that you had to attain with your hands making dirty, that's where only you will be able to learn it. Right. So at least the overall Linux, you have a broad context that, Linux is an operating system. So this is how the service will be. I need to connect and I need to execute to perform some action. I need to start a service. I need to perform some action, some command. Okay. That much context is fine. How to do that? You start doing it. Okay. So bit by bit, bit by bit, you start adopting, practicing and learn it. That's how you can do. You should do it ideally.
Okay. And for the project, right? We may need all this for the project. So
The same commands, whatever you have learned so far, will be used in the project again. Okay, you'll get another revision, right? So the commands, whatever you learned, by the way, it will be throughout the training, throughout your career. It will be a continuous thing. So you'll be better tomorrow. Same commands will be used in the project.
And so I tried to get the list of all the services, and we will have the. I mean, in the list, do we have any path where exactly that service is located? Something like that. Can we see it from somewhere?
No need, because the path we already know. etc system D system is a location that we keep the files. So what all it is listing, it has to be there.
Okay. I couldn't find some of them. Okay, let me get my hands dirty.
Yeah,
Right there.
no problem. It's fine. So here, and also that is the problem I think you're following is you're doing the practice while I'm teaching the things. You will miss the details. You can't do two things at the same time. You'll miss minor details. Okay, so that is a problem will come. So
Yeah.
ls
To
capital
that.
R, you can see all the files whatever was there is actually a service file here.
I was looking for the cron one.
So cron is this cron d.service.
Okay. Okay, got it. I looked for
And I'm not using ls option. That's where you need to pay attention. So ls-capital R is actually going to show me the files, even there are directories, the files inside the directories also will be shown. That is where this is inside one of the directory, which is multi-user targets. Yeah. And also don't do the practice when the session is going on, just pay maximum attention to the training. And once you are done with that, so please go ahead with the practice. Okay. So you'll miss details. This gap will slowly build it out. Okay. So you'll face challenges. Now, these are also very small topics. So tomorrow you'll see more new things, because some of these things, it is a very general knowledge, because operating system, just the commands are new, that's it, right? But most of the things are general knowledge. So from later things like, technical tools and all comes into picture, you need to pay the maximum attention. So please don't try to do the practice while the session is going on. After that, you do it. Have any questions? You have lab sessions and others.
Okay, sure, we'll do that. Thank you.
It's already time up. Anyone, any other questions?